Let's get started talking about some accountability, because everybody's out here holding people accountable, right? And unless you're somebody's boss, it's just not possible. Okay? Not possible. Let's talk about why a little bit. Accountability is a powerful tool, and it definitely significantly enhances your self love, right? Accountability is not just about external checks, it's about an internal practice that aligns with self love. Has to do all with you. Now, I said it before, and I'm going to keep saying it. There's not one person on this earth who can hold you accountable. They can call you out, okay? But no one controls your actual willingness to accept responsibility, or they can't account for your actions and actually take action, or control your readiness to take action. They may be ready for it, but if you're not ready, it doesn't matter. Most people think of holding someone accountable as a type of scenario where you're outlining the steps that they need to take, whatever you think is right? Whatever you think is morally correct, and perhaps setting a deadline for them to do so. If they don't do this, then this is going to happen. You're going to go to jail, or this or that, right? And that definitely works if you're indentured to someone, or if we're talking about a working or professional type of situation or relationship. But when it comes to your personal growth and your moral fiber and what your mindset is, baby, that's all about you. It's completely your choice whether you will allow external commentary to influence how you move about in this world, how you represent yourself. Now, when we hold ourselves accountable, we definitely acknowledge our part in situations. We acknowledge the roles that we play in relationships, and we do that with compassion and kindness, okay? Not just to ourselves, but to other people who are involved and the people that we're surrounded with. When we're able to recognize our role in various aspects of our lives, we create this foundation for growth and a foundation for positive change. I do want to get serious for a minute and kind of break down a few of the core components that come with personal accountability. Now, I am partial to Finkelstein's. His name is Darren, and the points that he summarizes, which are participation, evaluation, transparency, and feedback. So we're just going to talk about those things randomly and kind of about certain aspects, because these four mechanisms, they represent accountability being achieved with when you have goals, when they do exist, when you're able to take ownership, and when there's space for transparency and a transparent evaluation, and you're receiving regular feedback or allowing that feedback to be consistent. Because accountability towards yourself gives you control and enables you to make positive changes in your life, it tends to transition you from being a victim or cycling in this victim mentality where others are influencing what you think your direction can be or what your opportunities are. And with your experience, this is going to put you at the helm to steer your ship. So it's not because this person said or that person said or they did and it's preventing me. Now, you probably asked, how does being a victim put others in control of my decisions? We tend to think adverse experiences close us off from forward movement. And those experiences usually involve other people, right? We also think that we can experience any positive emotion, especially if someone told us that we're not worthy of it. Our mindset is directly affected or affecting the decisions that we make or the ones that we don't make, because not making a decision is a choice. But essentially, we don't commit to our vision or progress, or we just simply fail to commit to any action needed to get the ball rolling, okay, to get us going forward because of what someone else has done. Now, when we follow through with our commitments, it helps to build trust, it helps to build character, and that strengthens our self-confidence. Now, when it comes to self-reflection, we do want to be as transparent as possible. Being accountable encourages us to look inward, to peer inward, inside, who are we, and honestly assess our behavior. We're not going to get into why it happened and who did something first to influence my behavior and what I did, right? We're just isolating our actions, our behavior, our reactions. And the goal in that is to reflect on the behavior without judgment. I believe that once we start getting into they did this and that's why I did that, we're starting to swim in the judgment pool. And those details are being used to justify why our behavior was warranted, or we want to assure ourselves that we're still a good person, even if our behavior or our actions may be classified or considered bad, right? The good and bad, the good and evil, we're always going between those two things. But when in reality, the label of good and bad don't even need to enter this process, okay? Our process of reflection don't require those labels. We should be more focused on whether this behavior is representative of the person we know ourselves to be, or if it's in alignment with the presentation that we want to cultivate in our experience, right? If this is who we want to give off in life. When we start practicing self-reflection without the judgment, then and only then do we pave the way for self-love. It opens it up for that, right? Acknowledging our flaws and areas that we may need improvement, it doesn't diminish who we are and our worth. It doesn't diminish our value. Instead, it allows us to evolve and learn, or at least it should. Now, this process of reflection and evaluation is also a chance to give ourselves feedback, okay? Check in on things. Is perfection ever the goal? Never, never. Perfection is not the goal. Consistency is. And accountability really thrives on consistency. Consistency requires you to participate intentionally, consciously, to be aware. So using the energy that we emit through emotion to direct our forward movement is the goal, instead of letting it overwhelm us to a point where we cannot be functional, okay? So I would say, imagine that you had the gift of creating fire, okay, just from your being, but it was dependent on emotional expression. Well, a controlled fire can be used. It can melt metals and weld things together, right? You can build something, okay, with the right balance. Fire can cook food to perfection so that it's edible for you. It can warm up water. It can melt ice that may be blocking passageways, right, or pathways. Fire can keep somebody warm if they're at a close, safe distance. But fire can also be controlled by the wind, right? It can be influenced by the wind and catch on to things that it didn't even mean to burn. It can end up destroying it, obliterating everything in its path, and really cause a complete disaster if it gets out of control, right? That's how I like to view my emotions, and not just the negative ones, because let's be honest, too much of a good thing can be bad too. It can smother and it can choke out, right? So remember, I think it was Elmira. So balance is very important. Self-love isn't about being perfect. It's just about accepting our imperfections and being able to see opportunities of lessons, learning from them and growing from them. Now, accountability permits us to own up to our mistakes without this harsh self-criticism. Not that criticism shouldn't be constructive, okay? But it's important to reach a point where we view our mistakes as opportunities for growth and personal development. Setting boundaries is something, or a way that we can do that. And it definitely requires evaluation, reflection, and a bit of transparency as well. So being accountable means setting healthy boundaries and committing to those boundaries and being consistent with them. When we start prioritizing our well-being, we definitely demonstrate the love that we have for ourselves and set a standard for other people to follow when they're looking on. Saying no also isn't just for other people in our lives. We need to be able to say no when necessary as well, to protect our energy, to honor our needs, and to cultivate self-love. No is for us too. So what are some steps that we can incorporate in our lives that show accountability? One is self-awareness. Begin by developing your self-awareness. Reflect on your actions, think about your decisions, but also think about their consequences and the rewards of those actions and decisions. You can ask yourself, like, what am I responsible for? What do I want to be responsible for? How do my choices impact myself and how do they impact others? It's taking that ownership. And then we can move into setting clear goals, defining specific goals or intentions, whether that has to do with your career, your work, entrepreneurship, your health, your relationships, personal development. Clarity is going to be essential, being specific. Write it down, write your goals down, and revisit them from time to time too. Creating a support system, whether that be people that you trust, friends, family members, or mentors, because people are screaming these days they can't trust anybody. But if you're a parent to minor children, try to avoid using your children as sounding boards or being that circle of trust and support system. We'll talk about that later, but being able to regularly check in with your support system is something that you're going to need as well if you're using people. But you can also use systems and tools, things where you can set reminders. There's applications that you could use on your phone or your computer. You can create visual cues to stay on track. Tools can reinforce your commitment as well. So if you don't have people, use some tools. It's important to establish routines and habits for that consistency because that's really going to be key to the experience. You can do that daily, weekly routines to outline your goals. For example, like if you were going to exercise regularly, then set a specific time and maybe the length of time you're going to exercise. Don't forget about tracking your process, journals, apps, calendars. I don't know if people still buy calendars anymore, but be able to note both your successes and your setbacks, okay? Be engaged in your feedback as much as you're engaged in your action steps too, okay? Check in with yourself often. Also, you want to be able to celebrate your milestones. Even if they're small, we always want to wait for the big thing, but if it's small, do that. Acknowledge all of your efforts, okay? Because positive reinforcement also encourages continued accountability, all right? And of course, we want to learn from our mistakes. When you're slipping up or you make a mistake, don't beat yourself up. Instead, look at the opportunity to learn from it. You're asking, like, what can I do differently next time? How can I grow from this experience? And sometimes maybe you're not going to have an answer, and that's okay too. But hold yourself accountable. Actually do it. Actually be honest with yourself. Because if you deviate from your goals, try to acknowledge that without judgment. It doesn't mean that nothing's going to happen for you, okay? Shit happens. Just try not to smear it all around, all right? Take responsibility and really commit to making changes in your life. Really figure out what that desire is. Because accountability, it doesn't mean beating yourself up or imposing these limitations on yourself. And we can do that by saying things like, oh, I'm never going to be able to do this. I can't do that for whatever reason. That's us imposing limitations. And we're not treating ourselves kindly when we do that, okay? We really need to understand that everyone makes mistakes and it's just going to be a part of life. That's what we're doing all the time, okay? Embrace it as a springboard for self-improvement and really develop this deeper appreciation for yourself. Because accountability is not about punishment, although a lot of people are going to try to present it that way. It's a way to honor your intentions and create a life aligned with your values and your identity. Okay? So get out here, get yourself some accountability. Till next time.